Welcome to Economically Speaking, the official podcast of the Economics Association, Sri Venkateshwara College. Today, we have a very special episode lined up with us. One that goes beyond economic theories and into the real world decisions that shape industries and careers. Today, we have with us the founder of Global Risk Management Institute, GRMI, a game changer in risk management, a mentor to future leaders, and someone whose wisdoms goes beyond the boardroom. He is not just shaping careers, he is reshaping how young India thinks about corporate life, risks, and real successes. So let's peel back the layers, challenge a few norms, and maybe even catch him off guard with a curveball or two. Welcome, Mr. Subhashis Nath.
Thank you
It's
so
an
much.
absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you, my pleasure as well. Being back to the alma mater.
So, before we start the formal conversation, I'd just like to know how were your days back in '93 at Venki?
As I always say, I think those were years that shaped me. Those were years that actually told me that there's as much that you learn in class as you learn through the time that you spend outside. I think it shaped who I am today as an individual. As someone who was actively involved as the college cultural secretary, as a DEPSOC president, as the Eco Association president, I think I spent more time doing events. Gave me an opportunity to work with, or rather interact with, students across colleges, faculty, many senior leaders. So extremely happy, memorable times. And can't be thankful enough to the college for having allowed us to do all what we did. I'm not sure if college liked it and loved it as much, or if the faculty loved it as much, but we absolutely loved it.
So, imagine you are sitting back on the last bench of your class. What will be going on in your mind if you were here today?
If I was here today, or if I sort of think of me as a younger version of myself, trust me, I was never a last bencher. I was either right up front if I chose to sit. More often than not, I was not in the class. But for good reasons, which is I would be organizing something. So in class, I'd admit that I was completely switched on, and I think that's what I tell people, which is do other stuff, but there's nothing more important than content. And therefore, somewhere you have to also do it. So I don't think I would ever sort of shy away from the fact that there is a need for that balance. The balance is between having fun and ensuring that you also build content over time. So a junior version of me possibly was not that maturely thinking about it, but somewhere deep down I don't think much has changed. That's the way I was then, and that's the way I want our students now at the institute to be. I always tell them, go have fun, break every possible rule, just don't cross the limits, but focus when you study.
So, you used to have a lot of competitions around the DU circuit back then as well, like we have it right now?
Yeah, I think to be fair, both DU and beyond, I think there were enough and more competitions. What we actually introduced was we started taking Venki teams to beyond of NCR. I remember we went to BITS Pilani a couple of years. The second year of our college, we actually were an 80-member contingent going to BITS Pilani, participating only one event. So for us, it was a fun trip. But in DU, I think we did participate in a lot. We were the lot that organized festivals at City Fort Auditorium and at Ames Auditorium. So yeah, I think it was a very active DU back then as well. And the good news is the college had talent. College had serious talent, wherein we did win a lot of events as well. Be it the Muralidhar Memorial at LSR, be it a host of other North Campus, South Campus debates, some musical events. So I think we had a lot of talent as well. A far lesser known college back then, but I think there were enough who made the college proud.
So, can we say that you were part of the generation which made Sri Venkateshwara Venki?
Yes, makes me sort of sound older than I'd like to think I am, but I think I now do realize that it is a fact. But yes, I do not deny the fact that I think we brought about a change in Venki which was pretty significant. Because it was a college back then which was again trying to sort of academically establish itself. But just like what I'd done before that in my school days, which was change the school from being just known to be an academic powerhouse. I think we were the lot that said, let's sort of bring the real end-to-end development of students as to the forefront. We did college magazine, we did college events. Yeah, so I think we did play some role. I'm sure there are many others with it, but I'd love to believe that we did define many things.
I'm glad we are still carrying on that legacy that you brought into the college. Don't mind me asking, but what is one of the most silliest thing that you remember doing in the college? Like the most memorable thing that you did back here?
So I won't sort of, I know this is on going to go on air, so I'm not going to say stuff that I think I can say off air. But I think the one that I can still say is that we had a free canteen for ourselves for 2 years.
Wow.
It's not particularly silly, but I think it was a huge thing to pull off to get the college to fund us for 2 years. And what they didn't realize when they agreed to fund us was they were actually going to fund all our friends as well. So, and not just college friends, but anyone who walked into the college who we were friends with basically got to eat for free. And our college was the destination South Indian food for all of South Campus. There was a pretty heavy footfall. So yeah, I think, I wouldn't call it silly, but yeah, that's something I can go on record saying what did we do. There are many other things that we did, but I'll keep those for off record.
So are you still in touch with your Venki fellows over here? And anyone you think you owe a thank you or a call to?
Absolutely. I was just sort of talking to some of you before this. I think I've been very fortunate to actually stay in touch with a lot of our faculty members back then. A couple of them possibly sort of superannuated pretty recently, Professor Aruna Rao, Professor Padma. They've superannuated far more recently. But actually the one gentleman who I'll forever be sort of thankful to, not that I'm not to the rest of my faculty set, was Professor Nechal Singh. He used to be our microeconomics professor. More recently, when our institute had a convocation, I'd actually invited him and he had agreed to come. Health reasons kept him away. But I think he's the one who, for out of nowhere, to a person who wasn't academically oriented, he, I think, really taught me how to love a subject. And someone not academically oriented wouldn't possibly do that easily. But not to boast, but to get 45 on 50 in microeconomics wasn't the easiest thing to do. And credit for that goes to Professor Nechal Singh, because he got me to actually like that subject. I'd made notes for that. That's the only paper thing I had notes for. And those notes did the rounds of DU. Possibly they still do. But yeah, again, it's not to say the other faculty members weren't important. I think each one of them was, but yeah, Professor Nechal Singh for sure. But overall, I would say, I do owe a lot to this college, and that's one of the reasons I'm back at this college pretty often. And I think it did shape me a lot.
Oh, it's glad to know that. And during your college time, was there any experience, any moment that changed your perspective on your career goals, that set you on the trajectory to the career path that you chose?
Yeah, so I think it sounds not that relevant or not that significant. But I think to the day we told ourselves that the fact that we didn't have an auditorium to boast of, we used to have something called T1, T2, which I heard from you all still do exist. That's what we called an auditorium. The fact that we actually had it in us to say, so be it if we don't have an auditorium, doesn't stop us from pulling off two of possibly the better college events that DU had. By venturing once to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences AIMS auditorium, and once to back then possibly NCR's most touted auditorium, which is the Surrey Fort Auditorium. I think it was a defining moment to say, if you choose to not accept anything as a limitation or a constraint, there are ways to get around it. We weren't a branded enough college to get sponsorships easily, so we had to slog 10 times harder than, if it was Stephens or a Hindu or an SRCC or an IIT Delhi who would have sponsorship flowing in. We didn't have a college which was willing to fund us, but I think we just went hell for leather, got ourselves more than enough of sponsorship to be able to do events outside. But I think most importantly, it taught me that you got to put your mind at something, and once you put your mind at it, roadblocks aren't for those who sort of want to achieve. They're for those who want to make excuses. That's really what it told me, that one simple stuff.
So how was your career trajectory exactly after graduating from Venki?
So it's interesting because I ended up joining Anderson. I didn't join Anderson for anything but pure fun. And that's an anecdote everyone should know, which is a senior of mine, Ram Sarvapalli, who's also obviously from this college. He had joined Anderson, and he gave me a very good reason to join. He said, you know what, when you join, first 2 weeks you get to party at Taj Mumbai, because that's where you stay for something called the local office basic accounting course training. So that sounded exciting. And he said, then if you don't do something completely notorious, and he said you're capable of doing it from what I've seen you do in college, but if you don't do that and you survive 6 months, then you get 2 weeks at a city called Veldhoven, which is off Eindhoven in Netherlands, the famous PSV Eindhoven soccer club. So it's right off that. So you get to do a 2-week training program at Veldhoven. So he said, spend those 6 months. By the end of it, you either like this place enough to continue, or you'll find something else. As luck would have it, obviously I stuck around there for all of 10 years till the firm folded up. Firm became ENY. I got an opportunity to get handpicked to be part of what was called the Global Center of Excellence of ENY. We were a 6-member team, literally handpicked across the globe. Spent a couple of years there, and then obviously I came back, set up my own consulting firm, which when I last left was about $125 million practice, which was all for India, for Globe. And along the way, I ended up incubating the institute that I give all my time now to. So it's been a fun journey all through.
So this is the journey of how you became from a student at Venki to a global level player at the risks management, we can say.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a brief journey. Obviously, there's a lot more that went into it, but I think I would say that there's that much that one can do, but you also have to be very, very fortunate to have a ton of mentors and well-wishers. I think they played a massive role in this journey. As in, one can put in one's efforts, but you got to get really lucky. And I think I consider myself super blessed. And when I talk more about risk and other things, I'll tell you about it. Always look out for mentors. I think I've been very, very successful to have some absolutely outstanding mentors at various stages of my career. Be it my early days of Anderson, be it later on in EY Global Center, be it when I started the institute. A message to anyone who's listening into this is, do not ever undermine what a mentor can do to you, which is very different from what many believe, which is you need a father figure. I think father figure is sucking up to people. Mentor is someone who actually guides you. Mentors make a difference. And to me, that is one of the learnings I'll always pass on. And which is why I now personally am a very active mentor. Extremely available to just about as many people as I can. There's obviously a time constraint, but that's my journey.
So noting that here, folks, the importance of mentor. So Mr. Nath, coming to your journey in the professional field, if you had to explain risk consulting to a 10-year-old, how would you?
So it's actually pretty simple, it is just trying to think what can go wrong. Risk is nothing but, if you demystify it down to the simplest denomination, it is anything that can go wrong is a risk. So when you graduate, what career choices you have, that's a risk for you. You could get it right or get it wrong. You get it right, you build a successful career. You get it wrong. Many good students actually end up wasting many years just because of that simple choice that they make, which proves to be wrong. It's no different. When you're a large organization, you make a decision, your decisions are larger, the dollar amounts involved are higher. So that's why you talk about it. In fact, when I start teaching our students, the first thing I start with is, when did you buy your last mobile phone? Right? And when you bought your last mobile phone, what were the kind of things you looked at? So interestingly, most people would come and say, for the camera or for the storage. And my question, the way we use that is to say, now think of yourself as being the company which makes those mobile phones. What do you think going on in their mind? They think they're mobile phones. But actually, for users, it's a gadget which is a camera and a play tool. So that's the risk at a company end, where they've got to be able to figure out what can go wrong with a customer's expectation versus your product. A very good reason why things like BlackBerry went out of market. It's because they never figured out what was the customer expectation. So as I said, dumbing it down to a student level, think of anything that can go wrong is a risk. And it's a job of a risk manager, therefore, to try and see can they prevent it from going wrong, or if it still does go wrong, can they detect it early enough to be then able to solve for it the fastest that they can. That's just about as easy as it is when you try and demystify it.
Right. So, from the BlackBerry example, something like planning to fail is planning to like failing to plan is planning to fail. Just with respect to that, what is the case study in the risk assessment and management market done right or wrong, either way?
So I think I'll keep it simple again because I don't want to get into specifics, but two things which companies often don't get right is they often don't do what you all might be aware of. It's called scenario planning, which is people assume that businesses will run the way they think it's meant to run. Unfortunately, they don't. You hit upon situations which are not expected, and therefore you got to do something called what if. What if what I had planned doesn't happen? So take a simple example. If you all as students were organizing a festival and you banked on an X amount of scholarships or your sponsorship coming through, what if it doesn't come through?
Right.
Then are you prepared for it? You aren't going to be in a position to cancel the event. You may have possibly already committed funds to external vendors, whoever else. How do you deal with it? Now, not being prepared for that is a classical thing that companies keep struggling with over and over and over again. As a good practice, what one would always say has worked is companies who've learned to, what I say, fail fast. It's important, especially in today's day and age, which is highly volatile. It's highly disrupted market. There are so many disruptive forces, both in terms of innovation as well as external dependencies that you don't have a lot of control on, be it geopolitical, whatever else. In that market, it's important for you to be able to remain innovative, and then if you don't get it right, have it in you to fail fast. It's the lack of humility in business leaders to accept a failure and persist with a plan that they've launched, or a product that they've launched, or a new market that they've gone into, which often kills businesses far more often than many other things. So one of the success mantras I would always say is learn to fail fast, because you don't have a choice. You have to be innovative, and innovation comes with risk.
Right. So business processes breaking down in the best of the largest global corporations over the last decade or so, with a higher frequency than ever before, seems to prove that Murphy's Law, that everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So
Absolutely.
this does stand over here as well.
Absolutely.
in the risk
I
market.
think that's an absolute reality. That everything that you can expect to go wrong will certainly go wrong at some stage or the other. It's no different from when you all possibly try and prepare for an event. You've done everything right, and suddenly in the morning of the event, the projector doesn't work. The last thing you wanted is that to happen with your keynote speaker, your chief guest around.
Right.
What happens? Those seem small, but they happen in the largest of setups.
Exactly.
You know, there have been instances when I've actually gone in for a very large client pitch, all set. Luck would happen when laptop doesn't open. And it actually happened to me about 15 years back, and this is a real life story. But you take a learning from there. That's the last time that I ever used a presentation. Never after that have I gone in for any meeting in the last 15 years with ever a set of pages with me. Either on a laptop or on a screen or a print, never. It's a discussion that can't go wrong. Because the only thing that can go wrong is going to go brain fade. Can't do much about that. But you cut out all other external dependencies and variables. So you take a learning from everything that goes that badly wrong.
Wow, that's a really insightful lesson. Just out of the blue, are you interested in any sport or adventure activities?
Yes, I'm a big sports buff. I grew up listening to Radio Australia, ABC commentary at 5 a.m. So I'm a huge sports buff. I'm a massive Fed fan. I used to set up alarms. Now obviously it doesn't play, so it's unfortunate. But I've set up alarms for 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to watch him play his matches. I rarely ever missed a match of his that was live on TV in India. I almost remembered every score of his match. So a huge tennis buff till the time he played. I'm no longer that much of a tennis buff. Cricket, I'm certainly a buff still. So if I have spare time, actually, watching any form of sport on screen is my first love. I can't get myself down to the grounds anymore. I have done enough of that. But now it's more of TV watching on screen. Sports is certainly my big.
Comparing risk assessment and management to the sport, which sport would you choose for that?
It's a very interesting question because I actually do a session in college where I bring a golfing couple to campus. They're two pretty well-known golfers in the country. And the reason I bring them on is it's actually one of those games where there are so many aspects of risk management that come out that are at play almost on a everyday basis, and yet people don't understand it. You put in hours and hours of training, but unlike a game of cricket where results are far more immediately seen, improving even marginally in golf is super tough because it is a game of literally inches. You can actually sometimes even less than inches. So the reason I give that is also remember it's an individual sport. So when you're there at the course, you have no one helping you. Now many of you watch IPL. You see the whole lot in the dugout. That's a lot of support. When you're a golfer, it's an individual sport. It's really tough. Or if you heard Federer, he said it once that, he kind of knew that he didn't have a choice, he didn't have an option of losing, right? That's what was expected from him. Now when you go in with that sort of expectation, that sort of a pressure, it's a reality that your muscles stiffen up.
Yeah.
That's human. Now how do you not let that happen? So I think there are many sports, be it tennis, be it golf, that you can draw risk management parallels to. Because end of the day, what did I say? I said what can go wrong? Think of it in golf, it's just one shot, you get it wrong and you're done. Same with tennis. You playing on a break point or match point, one shot. Federer led 2-0, 5-4 and lost the Wimbledon from there.
Against Nadal. Right?
Yeah. So once that happens, you know that's what can go wrong. One shot and you lose your chance. I think from there on he lost his confidence that he was invincible on grass. So yeah, sports and it tests out your resilience. Risk management is about resilience. Sports tests out resilience more than anything else. If you look at team sports, it teaches you being a team makes you successful. Risk management again is about that. It is about how does an entire organizational leadership come together. No individual leader can ever be successful. So a lot of parallels.
Right, so that's a masterclass in how risk works. Now let's talk about another big one, landing your first job.
As I said, landing my first job was actually not, it wasn't much of an effort because as I said, Ram was my senior from college. I still remember Darius Gandhi was the HR leader. Ram managed to, and there was Darius Gandhi and there was Rajan Sablok. I have no idea. Darius was the India head HR and Rajan was the Delhi office HR head. I have no idea why would two such big leaders come to Venki. And that too into our T1, T2. It was an embarrassment for me to even host them. But because Ram had requested them and obviously he had been there for about a year, so they liked him, they came over. Actually, just 6 months. He was in that firm, but they liked him enough to come down here. I don't think anyone on campus has the slightest clue who the hell Anderson is. So obviously no one else bothered applying for it. So from college it was easy for me. And yeah, their interviews were terrifying. I must admit, I think I went through about 3 or 4 rounds of them. They were absolute nightmare of interviews. But that was Anderson for you. It was the world's largest firm by a distance for a reason.
Of course.
But yeah, that's how I landed my first job. As I said, I joined it for fun. Ended up having fun for 10 years.
You interact with a lot of students in the field that you are in. So, graduating back then versus now, what are the stark differences that you see between you and the students who graduate now?
I think one very obvious one, and I think it's almost stating the most obvious, is back then there really weren't options. Let's be clear for us, if you didn't do MBA, if you didn't do CA, and obviously I'm not talking of the engineering and medical population, which had a slightly different trajectory. But even there, if you're medical, you got a pretty clear track. If you're an engineer, you knew what you did it for. But even then, for most engineers, finally it was sitting for CAT and doing their MBA. In fact, that's one of the reasons I have a profound view on how horrible CAT as a process is. Because it's corrupted the entire education system by a set of people who could sort of ace CAT in that sense. You just need to be great on quant, and if you weren't, the assumption was you were dumb. And I've never understood the logic behind it, but the country's followed it for about 3 decades or more now, which is if you can't crack quant, you can't be successful. But yeah, back then I think that was a very clear limitation. I think you are really, really fortunate with the amount of career options that have come about now. I find the younger lot, I guess you guys are Gen Z. I have now already started experiencing some Gen Alphas, but we'll come to that later. But you Gen Zs, I think you have truckload of options. There is enough to do, be it in the world of digital marketing, be it media, be it cinematography, be it fashion technology, be it hospitality. I think there are way more options that have opened up. However, I don't think, if I was to be absolutely honest, I don't think parents even now, and including you all as students, I don't think you all are yet ready to break the mold. I think you all are still very straitjacketed into saying, here are only 3 options that will make me successful. If the more recent incidents hadn't happened internationally, I think the amount of students who look forward to going to US, Canada is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's the lure for it, because you learn nothing better. But people still go there. MBA is still a fad. In spite of a dropping placement percentage across the board, year on year increasing, people still do that. But what's changed is I think you guys have humongously larger number of options. And therefore I keep saying it at every possible platform, please stop being straitjacketed. You guys have the opportunity to make the most of it.
Okay, but with the lot of headwinds and the unstable job market in the job market, what are the 3 skills that we need to have? And number 2, what do you think that because of the skills that we have, it makes us even more vulnerable to the headwinds in the market, in the job market?
So I'm going to be a little provocative on this one to say, what headwinds are we really talking about? I don't think good talent ever faces headwind. And I've held this right throughout. Right through my consulting days, I used to always tell people when they came to me saying, I've got a better job option. And my answer used to be to them, listen, you always have a better option because you're good enough to find a better option. What's important for me is to understand, why do you need to look outside? And why did we let you look outside? So that's a view I've always had, which is talent will find a place for itself. Headwinds again are for those who believe there are challenges. So a lot of the headwinds that you all read about is media.
Right.
The reality is that a good student does do well. What you all need to think through is what makes you successful, and I think that's the difference, which is organizations or employers or recruiters, whatever you want to call them, what they're looking for is core specialization. Days of generalists are completely gone, and I think that's really what I would sort of recommend everyone to think about. What's your forte? What's your specialization? You could be specialized in today's day and age. You could just say, you know what, I'm really cool with digital marketing. You can build massive careers in that. Okay, you could just say, I'm really good with some of the AI stuff that's coming about. That's absolutely fine. With our country having so much of progress, hospitality is going to be a huge area. So pick an area of specialization that you like doing And the phrase I've always used is, when your work and passion meet, you've literally hit bliss point, the name of your eco event.
Eco event as well.
So the bliss point is when your passion and your profession meets. Specific skill set, I do believe that you've got to become, in today's day and age, a lot more culturally evolved, because the world is shrinking. No longer can you think of yourself as, I'm an India professional. The consulting practice that I built out, we had 97% of our people sit in India. 98.5% of our revenues came from global clients. So that's how fast shrinking the global market is. So to have an international mindset and a headset, I think is a skill you have to develop. Being respectful of international cultures, that's important. Specialization is a must. Days of generalists are gone for sure. I think that's established. I don't want to go too much deeper into it, but I can assure you that even board meetings of organizations as large as GMAC, which runs GMAT, at their board meetings, they're actually talking about how does MBA curriculum need to get relooked at. It is that obvious that the world globally has accepted that generalization is not going to survive. So international mindset, specialization, and the one thing I will continue to harp on, and I've said this, I think for the last 30 years of my life to everyone, communication. I think communication is a super undermined skill set. And I'm not saying you have to only communicate in English. I think that's an Indian problem. Which is, we believe that because the Brits ruled us, we believe that unless you speak English, it's not, you're not sort of skilled enough. But interestingly enough, when a French or a German or Italian or a Chinese or a Jap speaks English, we barely follow 30% of it. And they make about 70% errors. But we still highly appreciate, wow, at least the guy is making an effort. But when an Indian speaks in English, we being an Indians would still say, the guy doesn't know how to speak in English. He's got MTI, we found a word for it, so mother tongue influence. That's natural. What's wrong with it? But at least in the language that you can express yourself, communication is super important, because people will know what you speak, they wouldn't know what's in your mind. So 3 skills, headwinds I actually am not a believer of. Not at all.
And for those students who are still venturing around to find their interest, what are your advices for them?
This is a very tough one, because I don't think this early in life you will actually have that answer. As I said, I don't think I knew it when I was graduating. But somewhere you've got to ask yourself, what do you like doing? So for example, I knew that I liked organizing stuff. So even when I was at Anderson, I had an event management company. So I knew back in school I had organized festivals. Back in college I had organized festivals. So I knew that's what I was cut out for. And I think what it told me was, I obviously didn't know that I wanted to be an event management guy, and I don't think I wanted to do that. But I think what it told me was that I was someone who was not meant to have a boss, because I want to do things my way. So somewhere deep down you got to know what is it that you are cut out for. So if you've got that entrepreneurial bent, go for it. If you really believe that you like spending time with people, if that's your forte, maybe you go for an HR career track. If you really believe that you've got super convincing skills and negotiation skills, maybe that sales is your career. So I don't think there is a right answer to this, and each one's got to go sort of really introspect deep down and ask yourself the question, what do you really like doing? What do you want to do? And today, the good news is that you all have the choice and the opportunity to explore. It's a gig economy.
Yeah.
Very soon people will work for less than 50% of their time full time. That's not too far away. Are you bold enough to take those decisions? Are you bold enough to say, so be it, if it's not all secure income, but I want to do what I like doing. And I'm starting to see that population, by the way. As I sort of work more closely, both within my own team at the institute, when I talk to students, I find students being far more willing to sort of embrace uncertainty in their careers. And yeah, I think that's a great thing. You all should embrace certain amount of uncertainty. But what I don't want that to be wrongly understood as is it doesn't mean that you can afford not to have very deep domain, at least in some area. So you've got to be a super specialist in something that you like, and the rest can sort of get built around.
It's all about maintaining balances as well.
Absolutely.
Between grades, between our career prospects, internships.
Absolutely.
Right. So before we get any further, let's take a quick detour. You have been giving solid advices to students, so now let's play a small game. I'm going to throw some Gen Z slangs at you, and you tell
I'm going to be horrible at that, but go right ahead.
So you tell me what do you think, right? So just let me know whenever you're ready.
Yeah,
All right.
go ahead.
Delulu.
Clueless.
So it means great tie to students' expectations between real world jobs. All right. Riz.
Honestly, these are I'm going to be clueless on these, but go ahead. Let's see if I can hit even one of them. Go ahead.
Simp. Stan.
No chance.
No cap.
No chance. Yes, I think this one is unfortunately not for me. I mean, Gen Z slangs are. I might be teaching kids, but I think that's not really where my forte is. But
Glow up. Any guess? Wild, random? No? Alright. A very common word in your generation as well, but has a quite different meaning in ours. Tea. As in spill the tea. Spill the tea is like gossiping and all. Alright. W. It's like if you just have a good accomplishment, so you say, W bro, let's go, like a big win for you. Alright. Fam.
Fam.
Yeah. For fam, we can say we are a part of the Venki fam, the family.
Okay, that one possibly was still guessable in some ways.
Alright, so now that we have managed our slangs, let's get into the institution which is actually helping Gen Z get serious about their careers. GRMI. So sir, would you please tell us about GRMI?
So to keep it simple, essentially think of it as me having spent, when I conceptualized the institute, I had already spent about 25 years just doing risk advisory. And as I was mentioning earlier, super fortunate to have had, serviced about 6 of the Fortune 50 clients. 98.5% of our revenues came from global clients. With EY, I had the opportunity to author their global SOX advisory methodology. So, worked with a regulator internationally. So one had been very, very fortunate to get those learnings. But along the way, one of the things that came through very clearly is that there isn't any form of education anywhere in the world, not India, where risk per se is taught as a subject. And therefore, the genesis of the institute was, why can one not actually use this as an opportunity to give back what one was fortunate enough to have got in one's career, which is all the knowledge that one gathered over those years. And therefore, I think it was a moment of saying it's time to give back and yet stick to a domain that I've done many years of doing work in risk, an area where there is endless opportunity. And by the way, I've always been super passionate about teaching. Teaching started for me back in first year of college. I used to teach my own batchmates.
Wow.
When I was in second year, I used to take classes for the first year batch, specifically Mitri Eco, because I liked that subject. So I think I was always very, very passionate about teaching. So when you're passionate about teaching and you know that it's not taught anywhere in the world, I think that was the genesis of GRMI, and yeah.
So this problem led you to the founding of GRMI.
Absolutely.
If GRMI were a Netflix series, how would the plot be?
How would the plot be? I think it's largely played to what we had planned. I think when we set it up, we kind of knew that it's going to be a really bumpy ride, and it hasn't been any different. We had 6 students in our first batch, 2 in the next, and 5 in the next. So yeah, there were the super bumpy days initially, We knew that would happen because India has this infatuation with a belief that education is only if it comes out of an AICT or UGC approved institute. Unfortunately, we knew that we weren't going to be one of those. But you know what? It's played out brilliantly for us. We have about 300 alums out there. 97% of them are placed. 84% of them with highly reputed consulting firms, another 13% in large Indian business houses. So if you rattle off a few, it's the Titans of the world and the Wipros of the world and the ENYs and the PwCs and the Deloittes and the KPMGs and the Grant Thorntons. So name it. There's not one student of ours who's gone to an organization that literally any graduate would not know of. It's that prominent. We now have 100 students on campus. We'll get to about 300 and we'll stop it. We will never be a factory. That's one of the things we're very clear about. That's the sort of roadmap for the institute. We don't want to be a factory ever. We don't even want to be the Harvard of risk. I'm that clear. We've told the board, we will not be the Harvard of risk. We will be the GRMI of risk. We want the world to aspire to be a GRMI because we are the only ones, and we will remain way better than anyone else ever. So that's how the plots played out. I think I go back and keep saying it over and over again. We've just been super, super, super blessed to have the kind of well-wishers we've had, the kind of mentors I've had all along. And yeah, you know.
The transformation between a student walking in and walking out, the time duration between that period, how does that transformation evolve in the children, occur in the child, student?
So, you know, I was, day before was farewell for what we referred to as batch 15.
Mm-hmm.
And I think many of them actually said this, that they left a better version of themselves from the institute. And I think, which is really what we call as transformation, which is, transformation is not that sort of difficult to define. If you really again demystify it down, for us, transformation of students is about, do you end up leaving a much better version of yourself? The way that happens in our institute, it's actually a mix of three things. One, the fact that our education itself is extremely practical, real life example led. So absorption is super high. You know, understand it's a super intense program. It's about 900 plus hours in 1 year, which is really intense compared to any curriculum, yet absorption super high. Two, I think what we've managed to do is that be my associate deans, dean program, myself, we are clearly buddies and friends of our students. I have students over at my house at least 100 days in a year. Wow. So we know how to balance that off between being super, super hard when it comes to ensuring learning happens, and yet once learning hours are over, we are their friends, we are their buddies. They can confide in us, they can consult us, they can have us coach them. And it's not with one of them. Each one of them has the same access. We force them to go through, I think each one of them ends up making at least about 30, 40, 50 presentations in a year. It improves their confidence level. We take them out on trips that they don't even realize why we do those. Like we took our students out to the NIT University campus for 4 days, stayed there. We went with them for 3 nights to Rishikesh sometime back. Wow. And we guys are a part of it. What it does is it creates such a phenomenal bond within the batch. This farewell that I was talking about day before, they literally were, 50% of them were in tears and uncontrollable tears. And to me, that is what sort of we really, really bring about in the lives of students, where most of them leave saying, we are better versions of ourselves. We've created a family for ourselves here.
Creates that synergy.
It's a sense of gratitude. Yeah. Each one of them walks away saying, I don't think anything better would have happened for me in the last 1 year. So I think that's really, for us, that's transformation. And also one of the things that I always say is that recognize that being a young institute, I make no bones in saying that we obviously don't get India's top 3% talent. Natural, right? So therefore for us, the opportunity to transform is even higher. Mm-hmm. And it's like I always say that if you're an absolute top drawer institute, you're already getting the best in the world. So what do you change? You should be grateful that they don't get worse. But for us, we have actually got a huge opportunity to transform, and I think we really, really take pride in what we do with them.
Towards the end, what do you want people to feel when they hear GRMI 5 years from now?
I think we would like to be known for kind of 3-4 things. One, the fact that we had no other purpose other than giving back. I think that to me defines who we are. This isn't about wealth creation. This isn't about making money. This is about ensuring that we equip students with something that will allow them to become successful. So we want to be known as an institute which right from day zero was clear about that purpose, which is having an impact on the lives of our students. We certainly want to be known as an institute which, for reasons beyond their academic transformation, leaves a permanent, fun impression on our students. And I always believe that, be it in my earlier consulting avatar or now, if you don't have happy memories about a place, there's no point. And I think we want to be known as an institute that everyone carries super happy memories about. And obviously what we want to be known for is there can't be any institute which will ever beat us at what we are focused on, which is delivering risk curriculum. There isn't one today, which is fine. But forget 5 years, I'm pretty clear that till the time I can sort of foresee, there can't be an institute who gets better than us. We just have to be the best because we have the best of people in our faculty set, in our board, our strategy board, our global advisory board, our academic council. Each one of them is an icon, and when you get all that many icons together and sort of do the right stuff, you just got to be the best and remain the best.
So this has been indeed an insightful, unexpected, and a lot of fun along the journey. Thank you for talking us behind the scenes of your journey, and of course about GRMI as well. To everyone tuning in, share this with someone at the crossroads of their college and career, and keep asking better questions. Signing off. Good day.
Thank you.